Okay, well, good morning, everybody. This is the latest HIIT workout on market positioning tools. So as always, we're going to cover the topic within 10 to 15 minutes. This will be recorded and available on YouTube, and I will send you a link afterwards. If you haven't done so already, could I ask you to place yourselves on mute and avoid any background noises? That'd be really helpful. So just a introduction to myself. My name's Paul Innes. I run intensive marketing. We help people to think big and solve small. And those people range from, in the bottom left, corporates, startups and scale-ups, incubators such as the University of Oxford, and that's the picture you can see there of the Bridge of Sighs. And also I do some work with charities, and in the right-hand side there is a charity for the elderly, which I'm interested in. Okay, so today's workout routine is around market positioning tools, and we're going to deconstruct a simple tool and make sense of how you can use it in different contexts. We'll actually talk about storytelling, which is really important because that's what these tools are often used for and where their most value comes. Then, as always, we talk about what informs a tool and what that tool informs and where it fits into the overall process. And as always, we will reconstruct a market positioning tool, use a real life example. And at the end, if you could give me some feedback on menti.com 83 86 24, and I'll remind you of that later. Please don't forget to use the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that, and we can use it to capture any questions as we go. So market positioning tools, or perception mapping, or market mapping, they're called a number of different things. They're really quite useful. And the reality is that they're not used enough. And I think this is because many people think they're possibly too simple. So we have an example here of a very simple tool. And this simple tool says price and features, high and low. And so lots of features, high price. Being in that top right-hand quadrant always isn't the best place to be. However, with some creativity and some adaptation and some dynamism, you can make these tools work for you, or a variation of these tools, or numerous tools for the same purpose. So let me give you an example how you could take this simple tool and make it work for you. So I'm going to use something hopefully we're all fairly aware of, which is cars. So the first thing I've done, I've just completely changed the dimensions of that tool because I can. So I've now got a dimension of everyday on the left-hand side and executive on the right. At the top, it's performance, and at the bottom, it's practicality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some brands to this. Now, I'm sure you've all got a different view than me in terms of where this brand sits. But as I always say, never let the facts get in the way of a good story, especially when you're doing some presenting. So I'm going to be Volvo. And another way I can use a tool here, immediately I put myself on the tool. So if I'm Volvo and I'm a middle of the road car brand, everything else on this tool fits around me. So I've created a dimension of competitiveness immediately. And so I can simply add in the other brands and see where I fit. Now, you may disagree that Subaru isn't an everyday performance brand, or you may disagree that Mercedes is slightly more performance than practicality. But the point being is, I'm guessing within 15 seconds, you're able to kind of work out what was going on with this chart. And there are many layers that are going on to this. And one of the things I always suggest to the companies and startups I work with is maybe have one or two different variations of this positioning chart. And so you get a kind of 360-degree view of where you fit. And the other thing I always say is, don't always make these charts out to be where you are the best in class. They need to be realistic. So a good example here being Volvo, maybe there's some space in the executive performance area, but we're not really going to be able to take this brand forward. So Geely which is the Chinese company that owns Volvo, have created Polestar. Now, Polestar is a new brand. It's a new proposition. And is that going to fill the space for them in performance and executive? So again, another example how you can use a simple chart, a bit of dynamism to show a direction of travel for the business. And very simply, by changing around the dimensions, we can change the way we see the world or the way we're positioned in the world. So a good example here is I've kind of focused on safety, design, affordability, and performance, and you can see Volvo occupies a completely different space. Equally, you'll notice that I've put some color coding on the competitive brands, and I've just made this about their brand awareness. Now, again, there's no data behind this. This is purely illustrative, but it could show where a brand is strong in their brand awareness or weak. And so you can add layers or kind of a 3D effect to something that is a simple tool than what we started a few minutes ago. So this is how we've deconstructed a market positioning tool. But a couple of other things I want to make clear. Firstly, storytelling is vitally important. You have on average 2.7 seconds to get their attention. Hopefully I've got your attention. And this is a really great model by a person called Brett Dykes. Actually, I put the source in the bottom. And he talks about storytelling using three things: data, narrative, and visuals, and blending them together. And when you blend your narrative and your data, you can explain something better. When you blend your data and your visuals, you can enlighten people. And when you blend your narrative and your visuals, you can engage people. And hopefully the response you're going to get from the audience is in that gray italic text, which is, okay, I get it now. I didn't know those things. Please tell me more. So storytelling is really, really important, particularly in the worlds of presenting to senior leadership in your business or to investors. You've got limited time and their attention. And so you need to get your message across in a really simple, effective way. Now, I'm going to just say where this fits in, as I always do, what informs it, what it informs. As you can imagine, your positioning map is informed by your market analysis, customer research, maybe some brand awareness, competitive analysis, of course, in terms of seeing what competition are doing. And maybe this could be a portfolio assessment. It doesn't need to be a brand. It could be where your products lie. Then, of course, it's going to invest where you invest in products, your communication, how you might position, indeed, how you may change your price. And when it's done at a portfolio level, it could inform mergers and acquisitions. Now, I'm going to see in the next few minutes whether I can tell the story of fusion energy. So I'm going to make the case for fusion energy. And I'm not using a positioning map. I'm using more of a market map just to show the variation of the theme. So today, our global electricity demand is 26 trillion kilowatts. Let me just put that into perspective for you. That is 10,000 coal-fired power stations across the world. And that's about 2/3 of the electricity generation today. And then the rest is made up by what they call green energy, I guess, non-carbon emitting fuels such as nuclear, wind, and solar. And that's great, except we got a slight problem in that by 2050, in just 30 years' time, we're going to double our energy requirements to 52 trillion kilowatts. And the reason for that's quite simple. Emerging economies are going to use more electricity. We're going to have electric cars, not petrol or diesel cars. And quite frankly, the life expectancy goes up the more energy you use. But how do we solve the problem of getting to 52 trillion kilowatts, but also having zero carbon? We can't just double the amount of coal-fired power stations because that's going in the wrong direction. And whilst you might think we can do it all in green energy, quite frankly, to do it with wind, you'd need a wind farm the size of 10 times of Wales, the country. It just isn't going to happen. And that's forgetting the metal required to build them when it's competing with other needs. So how do we solve this? Well, we already have a solution. It's called fusion energy. It's lithium, a tiny amount, 3 grams, plus 25 litres of water will give you enough energy for a lifetime. Our only challenge is that the scientists are still working out how to make that energy leak efficient. And that's what they're working on. And there's been about $50 billion gone into this marketplace. But fusion energy is genuinely the future of our electricity generation. So hopefully in 2 minutes, I've made the case for fusion energy. So just to finish off, there's a ton of data visualization options out there. Information is beautiful. And in fact, go look at that book, go look at that website. It's amazing. And you get phenomenal impacts like you can see there on the left-hand side. But remember, your audience, you need to be informing them, not just wowing them. So it may look pretty, but they've got to get something from it. You want a decision to be made, or you want your proposition or your investment to be supported. So you're more likely to use things like a radar chart, a strategy canvas, some Harvey balls, a market map like I've just done, or indeed a hype cycle. So that's it. That's positioning maps. Very simple, super powerful. Be creative, be impactful, inform people. So that's it for today's session. Just a quick shout out. In a couple of weeks, we're going to do a digital customer lifecycle. I'll be using a REAN framework and bringing that to life in the context, actually, of communicating to healthcare professionals. Please contact me. You've got my email there. You should have received an email from me with the invites anyway. And of course, go look at the website for the whole range of things I do. And one last thing, if you can, provide me some feedback on Menti, that would be really great. And thank you ever so much. And now what I'll be doing is opening up the channels for us to do questions and answers.